You like the move? Sam Darnold, are you in? You out? You wanted somebody else? Because he's the guy we threw in there as a possibility amongst a bevy of others, Dave. One didn't seem to be dramatically better than the other, and Sam Darnold, a guy who's younger, certainly, who comes off a very good year that didn't end very well, which led to those questions popping up. What was your reaction when you saw that?
Yeah, I'm just like we talked about this, that, what would it be like what about Sam Darnold? A lot of people were texting in about it. We were thinking about it because of, the kind of year that he had. But, I just think it was, if you look at his career, first of all, he's 27 years old.
Yeah.
So, that's good news, but it's just, I mean, you just look at the last two.
That's great news.
Well, what do you say about the last two games? I mean, I
don't know. I know you were in there watching.
Games.
It is just 2 games. The problem with that is it would have been much better if they were at the beginning of the year, even middle of the year. They were the most consequential games of the season. The last game of the regular season dictating seeding, and then your playoff game where he just looked like Sam Darnold again. I mean, I don't know what else you say.
He was holding the ball. He got sacked 9 times. And I'm just going through looking at, and look, it's one game, but it is the most crucial one. And then, the other game that he didn't play well in was the Detroit game. And, that was against a playoff contender. And, he
completed 43.9% of his pass. And again,
and he didn't throw a touchdown. He didn't throw an interception.
No.
But, and he only got sacked 2 times. But if you look at that, the next game where he gets sacked 9 times, he was, 62%, 25 for 40. That's okay. Threw an interception. But, the sacks and holding on to the ball. And there was just a couple of times where I'm like, I don't know where he's going with the ball here. But, I've been a strong believer in, like, especially like whoever was the quarterback coach and, whoever is coaching a guy, that means a lot. And you have a new offensive staff here. And, I think they're going to rely a little bit more on the run. And, maybe that's a perfect fit for them, and I think it all has to do with them getting in that room, because John has been talking about the new coaches that are trying to, work in with the coaches that they kept. And like, who's the best option that we have at quarterback? And if you give this guy a run game and you give him some time and, a game plan that he understands. And, I think Kubiak obviously looked at some film and said, I think we can work with this guy. And
that really should be all I mean, we as fans have our favorite guys for whatever reasons, right? There were guys that love Geno, and this is a travesty, and you deserve to. I saw a lot of outrage, and I saw others celebrating. Thank goodness. We've been mediocre, just kind of hanging around in limbo, and now we can get past that spot. So you got everybody across the board. They should have gone after Justin Fields. I've seen it all. So, and we'll all find out. I'm not. You joked about, Darnold and Bregman. I just like Bregman because of his face and what they did
because
and who they
his
are.
Face. That's the number one reason, right?
Yeah, his face became very prominent after they cheated. But Darnold, I don't dislike. I have sincere questions about whether he's truly that guy from this season, or is he the guy from every season leading up to this season? Because, and I probably would have felt better if he played that way through, even if they don't, go to the Super Bowl. Hey, he played well, but they lost. You certainly feel better. It just gave me pause. I was just like, I need to see more before I buy in. Now, what's real is the coaches, Kubiak, Schneider, McDonald. They certainly believe, because they made the financial commitment. They made the move to trade Geno, and they made the move to go out there and get him. So they're doing much more film study, much more conversations with people surrounding this guy. I'm going to trust in their intel and believe that, all right, this is the best option for them, so I'm going to go with them on it.
Yeah, it's almost like you don't – at that point, I would agree with you on that it's not like they're taking a flyer. They didn't pay a ton of money. I mean, it's
relatively speaking, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a little over $100 million for 3 years. What was the amount that was guaranteed?
50.
I think it was 52.
Something
55.
like that.
55. Yeah. So,
$55 million guaranteed.
Yeah. I mean, so if you look at it in a yearly basis, it's like, okay, they didn't like break the bank. I mean, for quarterbacks these days, it's kind of cheap, but I mean,
It's just a little more than you were already paying Geno.
Right. So, I think, and he's 27 years old instead of what, Geno's 34.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's not like I think I think it'll be really interesting to see, what happens. But, you're going to have to give him some help with the offensive line. And then, you've got the DK thing as well. We talked about that. But now, all of a sudden, you don't have that guy. And those are the two most polarizing players that we have sent texts back and people have texted in about, Geno and DK.
Mm-hmm.
No, and I think really in like the history of this show, I think that is probably the one, maybe one or two players other than these two guys that just
talks about Clowney a lot.
Yeah, Davian Clowney, and that was going into the pandemic year.
Yeah,
and we spent a lot of time on him.
But got a lot of conversation.
But as far as a player from another team, we've talked a lot about Aaron Rodgers, and there was some news out there that he was going to.
That was poorly received.
Possibly, yeah. I think I texted
really poorly received. If you're just looking at comments on Twitter when that news came out that, hey, the Seahawks are interested in talking to him, I retweeted it. And then just seeing the comments like, oh, boycott. I was getting texts from friends. This is a joke, right? And everybody just were anti that move. So, here we are with Darnold. And again, Darnold, the conversations were never about, oh, this guy stinks. He's a bum. It was like, is this real? Because it came out of nowhere. He had just been one guy his whole career. And then all of a sudden, it's like, what happened? He had a fantastic year. He looked great. I love him. We've always said, dating back to my days with Brock, debating him coming out of college, just going, he's got a great arm. He's obviously talented. His decision-making was what stuck out to me at the college level. That carried over into the pros. And then, unfortunately, it came up in those final two games, and you were in there looking at the film going, I don't know what he's doing here.
Yeah, well, and look, I think that, there's a big difference from having watched a guy and, seeing what he can and can't do, and then looking at his numbers. And that's really, I've looked at him a little bit, but, like Brock, he's pretty much an expert on quarterback play and saw something, apparently. But, if you look at his numbers, no. You look at his record, 4-9, 7-6, 2-10, 4-7, 4-2. And 0-1. So and he hasn't got a ton of chances to play, but it hasn't worked out for him. And now all of a sudden he's 14-3, 66% completion percentage, 35 touchdowns, and he looked good. But in those two games that I watched in Detroit and then the playoff game against the Rams, just like the guy said, who we'll talk to, he's holding the ball too long. And there was times where there was receivers wide open that are just standing there. And so I don't know if he got flustered, if there was something. There was a lot of times in the Detroit game that they brought more than 4. They were bringing 5 and 6, but you saw how he handled it when he played the Seahawks.
Yeah.
We brought, I think, 5 on that play where he steps up and hits, was it Jefferson that he hit in the end zone? And, it was right in between Julian Love and Reek Woolen. And I thought Jay Love could have got over the top a little bit better there. But, you look at a play like that, that's not the Sam Darnold that you saw the first 6 years.
Yeah. So he's
very intriguing.
Yeah, some great moments this year. I'm betting on those. And, again, I'm trusting in what the conversations and the research said to, Kubiak and McDonald and Schneider and all those people that are making this step. This is a huge move. Mm-hmm. It's a massive move for them. It's not a commitment to – he's our franchise guy in perpetuity. It's a 3-year deal, and again, compared to what quarterbacks are getting now, it's a pretty reasonable deal. And by the way, this in stunning news, Colin Cowherd was wrong again. How about that? Remember, he was on there talking about the days of 40 million plus are over. He's in the 50 million plus category.
Talking about Darnold?
Yeah. According to his sources.
Well, does that also give you some pause that, most of the league, that's pretty much what they think of him?
Yeah. Yeah, I would assume if he was offered 50 elsewhere, he would have gone. I don't know that he had a particular affinity for Seattle over someplace else that was going to offer him, $10 million more or $13 million more. So
you asked me what I thought in the beginning, and it's like I'm. It's not like I don't like the move.
Yeah.
I think it's really interesting, and I think with a new offensive scheme that look, here's what happened with Geno when. they couldn't move the ball. They just had to ditch the run game and just throw it. And so, they're looking to get better there. And I just think it's going to be very interesting. But I mean, it did give me some pause that, number one, what was the magic sauce there to get him going this year and be a 14-3 quarterback and make it to the playoffs and throw for 4,300 yards, which is way more than he's ever thrown?